supposed to be down at the bottom. My bro told me go get him, I got him. Walk with God, you better not doubt him.
We're here with Coach Sylvia, former player at UNC Tar Heels, to be exact, assistant coach there as well, up until 2019 season. Ex WNBA player, also a businesswoman as well. But how you doing today, Coach?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. And congrats on your wedding. That was in Vegas as well. How was that?
That was unbelievable. First of all, to get a text message on a Tuesday from Mark Davis saying that he wanted to fly me out for all expense paid trip. I play for San Antonio Silver Stars, which relocated to Vegas. So I didn't even play for Vegas, right? So for the owner of the Raiders and the Aces to text you on your phone, I'm like, how did he even get my phone number? And offer an all expense paid trip just to say thank you for my contributions. And I only played for San Antonio for one season, right?
Yeah.
And he just was like, and he said +1, like all expense paid trip +1. So I was like, oh man, Vegas. First of all, I was thinking like, is this a joke? And then the next text message said, P.S. This is not a prank. And I was like, wow, this is for real. So I called my fiance and was like, hey, I just got a text message saying that I have an all expense paid trip to Vegas. And he works for Duke, right? I'm Carolina, but he's working at Duke. And he had just started this new position. He's been at Duke for 15 years, but he just got transferred to a new department. He hadn't been there for 90 days yet. And, if you don't put in your 90 days, you don't get days off, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you probably can't go, but I just wanted to let you know, give you first dibs on it. If you can, I'll just take somebody else. And he was like, let me talk to my boss. His boss okayed it. Boom, we're in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
At the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And before we left, we had talked about possibly eloping while we were there. We were going to get married in July anyways, right?
Okay.
So like, what if we do it in Vegas? I'm like, well, we hadn't talked to our family yet. So I was like, let's just pray about it. If we feel good and we got peace about it, then we'll do it. So we packed, he's like, what do we pack? I was like, just pack a white shirt. I don't know, it's Vegas. You can wear blue jeans if you want to. So we both packed white shirts. And when we got there, it just felt right, man. Like we had somebody there holding my name card, had my name. And so he got our luggage, escorted us to the limo, put us in the, Mercedes Sprinter, took us to the Mandalay Bay Hotel. When we walked up, the doors just opened up like,
wow.
like a dream or something. We had unlimited tab on our room, so we could just order food, order stuff. Like you can't write it up better than that. And at our hotel, the gym was connected to our hotel. That's how big it was. There was an HBO fight going on, a boxing fight that was in our hotel, right? That's how big the Mandalay Bay Hotel is. So when we got there, we just flopped on the bed. And we were like, let's do it. I was like, you want to do it? I was like, you got peace? He was like, I got peace. So we went to breakfast the next day because we got there at like midnight. The next day at breakfast, we told the rest of the people that were there, we're like, we're thinking about getting married tomorrow. And they were like, what? So the president of the Las Vegas Aces was like, we got a wedding to plan. So she threw a bachelorette party. The commentators were there.
Wow.
They just rearranged the whole schedule and basically paid for the wedding reception. I mean, you can't draw it up better than that. So I literally on Memorial Day weekend married my best friend. And, the WNBA players that were there were my bridesmaids. The president of the Aces was my maid of honor. I had a flower girl. Like it just all pulled together perfectly. So we had a blast, absolute blast. I had no dress. So clearly I'm not a bridezilla, like no dress, no family, we just did it. So it was just us, our love, some witnesses, and that's it. Right.
Wow, that's a real Vegas wedding. That's
yeah. We did it in the oldest chapel in Vegas. It was called the Little Chapel of the West, right across the street from our hotel. Like we could have literally walked across the street.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people have the huge wedding and no love. We had a lot of love and a little wedding, and I prefer it be that way for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my husband is the pastor. So allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Sylvia Crawley Span.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Pastor. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's not a senior pastor. He's one of the pastors. So I'm not a first lady.
Yet.
Yeah, I'm not ready for all that. I sit in the back. I sit in the back. When they say hug five people, I don't want to hug five people. I just want to get the word, get out, go home. He's still working on me. He's not done with me yet. I'm getting there, but I'm just not quite there yet.
Okay, cool. So for the folks who don't know you, can you like give us a rundown of your, playing career and coaching career?
How much time do you have? Oh my goodness. I played for 23 years. So I started in the 7th grade. Obviously chose to go to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We were last in the ACC when I went there as a freshman.
Yeah.
And I left as a national champion. So I'm one of the few people in the world who could say I won my last collegiate game.
Yeah.
And then from there, we went to the White House. It was an unbelievable experience. I signed my first professional contract to play in France, Rouen, France. It's near Evreux in Paris. And then from there, I played in Spain. I played in Spain for about 3 years over the span of my pro career. I was a pro for 12 years. And I played in Italy. By then, the ABL started. So when I graduated, there was no American Basketball League in the US, none.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to keep playing, you went overseas, right? So I got a letter saying that the ABL was starting. And they actually asked me if I thought we should play with a smaller ball, if we should lower the rim, if we should play on regulation courts, and they consulted me on all this and a lot of other players, right? So we got to define what we wanted in a league, which was pretty cool. That doesn't happen,
Yeah.
They said, do you think the name should be Women's ABL? Or just ABL, because you don't say men's NBA. And we're like, yeah, you're right. Let's just call it the ABL. And they said, do you think we should play from this month to this month? We had a 6-month season. Or do you think you should just play in the summers? We're like, no, basketball's played during basketball season. We've always played during that time. So we chose a 6-month season.
Yeah.
And so then I got another letter saying, don't rush. Another league is coming. And they're like, we have all the backing of the NBA, the sponsorship, TV endorsements, all that kind of stuff. But it's not coming for another year. And I wanted to play right away. So I was like, I'm going to the ABL. I'm tired of playing overseas where my family can't watch me play. My grandmother cannot come over here. She was too old to fly 9 hours to France and Spain, right? So I chose to play in the ABL. I played for Colorado Explosion, where I won a slam dunk contest blindfolded. We had the first ever women's slam dunk contest. This was ironically the first year that the NBA did not have a slam dunk contest. It was like the only year they didn't have it. And so we got a lot of media coverage because of that. And so I was favored to win it.
Was this a 10-foot rim or?
Yeah.
10-foot rim? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I refused to play in a league in a contest where it wasn't regulation.
Oh, wow.
So we needed 6 contestants to have a real dunk contest. There were only 5 women in the league who could dunk. So me and one of my friends, we taught Kara Walters how to dunk. That gave us 6. So we had a dunk contest, right? Kara actually came in second behind me. She was runner up. Wow. So yeah, I won with a blindfolded dunk. Yeah. And I got traded immediately. So as soon as I won the dunk contest, I was pulled into a room with my agent, with my boyfriend at the time, and my sister. And the WNBA was calling my agent saying, hey, we want her to switch leagues. We will blow this out of proportion. She'd have commercials, endorsements, whatever. And then the league I was playing in, the ABL, said, well, what do we have to do to keep you? So they were asking me on the spot. So my agent was like, tell them what you want. I was like, oh, okay. I want endorsements. I want to be traded. I'm like, I just drew up all this stuff. And like, that's unheard of in professional sports. You don't get to draw up your own contract. You don't get to trade yourself. Like the teams trade you, you find out about it later. They call you on the phone and say, congratulations, you've been traded to whatever team, right?
Yeah.
So I got traded that night. My new coach called me and was like, hey, congratulations. It was Lynn Dunn. She was like, congratulations. I heard you're on the team. And so I went on tour on behalf of the team. Like I was on Good Morning America. I was on Sinbad's night show. It was called Vibe. I was on Keenan Ivory Wayans' late night show, Jay Leno's late night show. You're a little bit too young to know about that, but like,
I know Jay Leno.
So like I just went on tour. And so I remember talking to my coach and I was like, I felt bad because I wasn't at practice. Like I'm just traded. We got a game in like 2 days. I was like, what about the plays? I don't know the plays. She was like, listen, when we pass you the ball, shoot it. I was like, all right. So I go on tour. Like I'm taking my friends with me. It was crazy. So I signed the highest contract in the world. So by then, both leagues were in existence. So it was said that Shamiqua Holslaw would come out and be the first $1 million contract. And so my contract said, if she makes $1 million, I got to make $1,000,001. Right. So I'm on top of the world, highest paid contract. I got endorsements. I got commercials, posters. And halfway through that season, that league folded. My contract was supposed to start the next season because I was already on contract. So I never got that money. Never. Like I'm at the peak of my career and then like, boom, right? So the league files bankruptcy. The WNBA said, we got 20 spots open for you 90 players who lost your job in the ABL, right? All the players in the ABL, we all knew each other. We were like a sisterhood, right? We put these jerseys on. They had a number on the back. They said, may the best 20 win. We fought each other like cats and dogs for those 20 jobs. Because why? We had no resume, no plan B, no work experience. Like I had never worked. I played in high school. I played AAU basketball so I can get a scholarship. I got a scholarship. I worked my coach's camps every summer to stay in shape so I could go pro. I went pro. I went straight to like overseas in the ABL. I never worked, not even at McDonald's. So now I'm unemployed. I got no work experience, no resume, no plan B. I just been hooping. No investments. My mom kept saying, you need to buy a house. I'm like, Mom, I'm still playing overseas. When I settle down, I'm gonna buy a house. You know, I was leasing a car. I didn't even own a car. So like the rug got pulled from up under us. And this was like a pivotal moment in my life, not just my career, in my life. Because and like my family sat me down, they said, okay, what did you major in? I said, communications. They were like, what would you major in that? You had a full ride to North Carolina, you majored in communications. What did you think you were going to do? I was like, I wanted to be the next Oprah. I wanted to commentate. I don't know. Right. So life began to be very real at that moment. And so I started soul searching. I felt like clearly this is not my purpose in life. Right. Basketball is just something that I've been blessed to do. But like, what am I called? What am I put on this earth for? And I went on a quest for that. I remember I flew to Cancun. I sat on the beach. I was up at sunrise, just waiting for God to just answer my prayer. And I was there for 7 days. I got nothing. On my flight home from Cancun, I was looking out the window and we had turbulence. Right. So the plane like dropped. And my heart dropped. I thought in that moment, I thought we were going to die, right? My whole life flashed before my eyes. And so by the time I landed, I was very crystal clear in terms of like everything I had been through, right? So it was as if basketball was just a hallway to usher me to the main room. It wasn't the main room. Like I thought basketball was like, that was my purpose in life. Like, no, that's not your purpose. That's just the room. That's just the hallway that you've been ushered through to get to the main room. Right. So don't be upset if you miss your free throws. Like, you can't get bent out of shape over that, Sylvia. And don't get bent out of shape if you're not a starter. And don't get bent out of shape if you never land in the WNBA, right? Like, you're pursuing the WNBA, but if you don't make those 20 spots, like, that's not the main room. That's just the hallway that you've traveled through, right? And it was a beautiful route. So be grateful for that. And so by the time I land, I was clear that basketball was not my purpose and my calling in life. It was to inspire and impact young hearts and minds. That's just the route that he took me through. That gave me the credibility for you to that I can share what my real story is, what the real room is, right?
Yeah.
And so it was, by the time I landed, I had a different perspective, right? I did not get drafted. I was not one of those 20 who got drafted to the WNBA, and I was crushed about that. But I felt like, okay, this is not the main room. Like, I was able to recover. So my agent sent me to Italy. She was like, stay in shape, don't give up, just keep going. So I played in Italy. I had a really good season there. My team was Mafia owned. It was wild, actually. They love the president of my team, the Mafia owner, loved dark-skinned Black women. So he took me everywhere with him, right? And so for me, it was just, I was having an experience of a lifetime. Little did I know, my agent was working very hard. They had started 4 new franchises in the WNBA: Portland Fire, Cleveland Rockers, Miami Soul, and Orlando Miracle. And I got invited to the Portland Fire training camp. So my agent was like, listen, they gave you an invite. It's nothing permanent. You got to do work in training camp. So I went there with a different perspective. Like, this is not my purpose in life. This is just a hallway. And it took the pressure off of me to make every free throw, to score every basket, And I went there and balled out. Like, I balled out. And so I made the roster. I became a starter. I got the first jump ball in the franchise history of Portland Fire. First rebound. I scored the first point, So what seemed like to be like me not getting drafted was the first time I ever set a goal and didn't achieve it. And that could be devastating if you've been trained to win championship rings and gold medals. Like, I played for USA basketball, so I'm a gold medalist. Like, I've achieved success at a very high level. So to not get drafted was failure to me, really, in my world. And so not getting drafted ended up being the biggest blessing in my life, because had I been drafted in those 20 spots when the leagues merged, okay, let's say I would have went to the Sparks. Yeah. Well, you're not going to start for the Sparks. That's Lisa Leslie's team. You're not knocking her off of her. Like, this team was built on her, right? Let's say I went to the Houston Comets. That's Tina Thompson's team. Like, I'm a center. So these are the players that I would have to knock off in order to be a star there, or to be a starter, I should say. You go to Sacramento, that's Yolanda Griffith's team. She's an Olympian. You're not knocking her off of her spot, right? So I just would have played about 2 minutes to back these players up. But because I sat out a year, went to Italy, kept my skills sharp, kept my mind sharp, right? And then came back to a franchise that was just starting, it was wide open. There were no starters there, right? So what seemed to be a failure ended up being the biggest blessing of my life. So I played for Portland Fire, had an incredible career and experience there, played for what I consider a true team. Like, it really didn't matter to us who scored. It didn't matter to us who started. We all loved each other. We all cheered for each other. And that is very rare to play for a professional team, because it's about money, right? It's about either I eat or you eat. It becomes very competitive. There's an all-star game halfway through the season. So everybody on your team is competing to be one or two of the all-stars from your team. So there's no sharing the ball usually, but for us, we didn't even really have all-stars on our team. Like, yeah, we just played basketball. We were grateful. All of our stories was none of us made it the first time. And so this new franchise came and gave us a second chance. So we were like the second chance players. We had that chip on our shoulder, right? And so we carried that when we played against teams that we were coming in there like, look, we ain't got nothing to lose. And so it was a wonderful experience. The Trailblazers did not buy our team. Like that year, 2 years after I got to Portland, they opened it up for every NBA franchise to buy the WNBA franchise. And some teams did. The Trailblazers said, no, we're going to go in a different direction. So Portland Fire folded. And I got in a dispersal draft. I got sent to first Indiana Fever, and the very next day traded to San Antonio Silver Stars, where I ended up. That's where I retired in 2004. And I had a good experience at San Antonio, but I just played there for 1 year. And so my life has gone full circle when Mark Davis calls you and say, hey, we want to just thank you for your contributions. Because I retired and I didn't get the whole send off, like unless you announce that you're going to retire at the beginning of the season or a year before you retire.
Yeah.
Then you don't get the Kobe Bryant send off where every team is honoring you. Every team is rolling down your jersey. I kind of did it at the end of my season, was like, you know what, this is it for me. Like my body and my heart just knew it was time. And I just was like, and I still had 2 more years left on my contract. I was like, I know this is not the main room for me. This has been a beautiful hallway, before I start bouncing around and getting injured and get it snatched away from me, I want to walk away on my own terms. And I had an incredible conversation with Michael Jordan when he retired. And I said, Mike, how did you know when it was time? He said, your body and your heart will just let you know. Nobody can tell you when you should retire. Nobody, people will say, you're getting old, you should retire. He's like, your body and heart will let you know when it's time. And I heard what he said, but I didn't really get it until my body and my heart start telling me, like, you've had a great career. Don't go out bad. There are some people who they get injured and then it's snatched away from them. And then they live the rest of their lives. They could have had a great career, but they live the rest of their lives like stuck in that moment because they didn't walk away on their own terms. And now those are the people that are dreaming through their kids or their players, like trying to relive what they didn't do. And that's to me, that's just not a good place to be in for the rest of your life. So I retired from playing, transitioned right into coaching. The whole time I played, my coaches would always say, you're going to coach. Like I had a coach's mentality when I played. Like I understood the value of every possession.
You're a point guard out there playing center.
Playing center, which is rare. Most centers like don't have a point guard mentality. But I was a senior. We only had 2 seniors when I was at North Carolina my senior year. And so in a huddle, our freshman was Marion Jones. Right? She was our point guard. So normally the point guard would get in the huddle and say, hey, we're going to do this. But she was young, trying to lead, very headstrong upperclassmen. So I would be the one in the huddle saying, hey, let's run easy to this side because Charlotte is hot. She got the hot hand, run it to this side. Like I was in the huddles doing that. And I was in the locker room echoing the coaches, right? Echoing like the coaches are right wing boxing out. It's our fault why we ain't winning right now. Like everybody got a box out starting with me. Like I was saying those things, right? So my coaches recognized that and they were like, you gonna coach. Like I would turn the ball over and would go over to the bench and be like, take me out right now. My coach would be like, no, Sylvia. I'm like, just take me out. I gotta get my head together. I know better than that. I just be fussing myself out. And she'd be like, no, like snap out of it, bounce back, next play, let's go, get out there.
Yeah.
So I transitioned right into coaching. And then for me, it was like, I went from being a participant on the court, like I get in the huddle, I grab my teammate by the shirt and be like, this will not be my last game, box out, right?
Wow.
And so when I became a coach, I was on the sideline as an observant. I'm not, how do I motivate people to do what I did in that huddle? How do I do that from over here? Because I can't get out there and rebound for you, right? And so I had a very unique opportunity where I played in the WNBA for 3 months. And then I had a 9-month coaching contract. So I played and coached. Before I retired, I did this for 2 years. I played and coached simultaneously in the same year.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to, as a coach, have an off season and go back to the WNBA. And I was trying to figure out, how do I do from here what I used to do in there, in that huddle? And so what I realized is that it's about relationships. I had a relationship with every single player that I played against. I was a captain on every team that I ever played, even abroad where there was a language barrier, like in Korea, where I couldn't speak a word of Korean when I got there, but they voted me captain. I'm like, why would you vote me captain? I can't even speak Korean, right? But certain things are universal, like let's go, like rebound, let's go, high five, that's universal. You don't even have to know how to speak that language, right? And so what I realized is that I had relationships with every single player that I played against, and they knew I cared about them. Like off the court, if you were sick, I'm going to bring you some medicine. You getting surgery, I'm showing up at the hospital, right? So it was like those intangible things. Like leadership is really about servanthood. So I was really literally serving my teammates. And in turn, in the heat of the battle, when I would say stuff without a filter, like I wasn't thinking about the best way to say it, they could receive it because they know, like, she just brought me some medicine when I had the flu. You know what I mean? So I think that's where a lot of coaches miss the mark, right? Because it's you forget about those relationships. If a player knows that you care about them, like genuinely care, they'll run through a brick wall for you, right?
Yeah,
You can say stuff in a tone where, you know how a lot of people say, you got to hear what they say, not how they said it, and chew up the meat and spit out the bones. They can do that kind of stuff if they know you genuinely care about them. Then you can lead them, then you can motivate them, then you can be an observant on the side and still get those same type of results. So I have the unique ability to switch hats very quickly. I can switch from player coach quickly. Like I would hear my team would go through something, like, so let's say we had a team problem and we have a team meeting and we discuss it. And I hear the players talking and I would hear the coaches talk, and I could switch like from player to coach. And then I go in a staff meeting and I'd be like, here's what I heard them say. And they'd be like, that's not what they said. I'm like, I know that's not what they said, but this is what I heard. And I had a very unique opportunity to coach at North Carolina for the same coaches that I played for. Like there's some coaches that coach at their alma mater, but they're not working for the same coach that they played for. My coach was there for 22 years, right? So I got a chance to be that bridge. So our staff would have a meeting and I'd be like, what are we going to tell the players? We're going to tell them this, and I'm like, no, we can't go in there and say that. Let me tell you what I heard as somebody who played for y'all. And they're like, that's not what we said. I said, I know that's not what you said, but that's how I interpret it as a player. And anybody in here that's ever played for you, feel free to trump me. I'm the only one in here like that. So my voice became very powerful and very, and heard because I had walked a mile in those players' shoes and I had played for that staff before. And so that position, I learned a whole lot from that position because it taught me a lot in terms about leadership, about leadership, about empathy, about hearing what people are saying and translating that to people who don't have that same empathy because they never walked in those shoes before. So I can talk forever about that. I'm gonna stop right there about that. But so yeah, that was kind of my journey. So now I am tapping into entrepreneurship, which I dibbled and dabbled into that as I played. Like I started a clothing line when I was in Korea. So I had tailors in Korea. My tailors didn't speak English and I didn't speak Korean. So I went and met with them every day. And I was like, this is charcoal. This is khaki. This is blue jean. Blue jean. I kept saying it until they were like, oh, blue jean. I'm like, yes, blue jean. So by the time I left Korea, we could speak something in between Korean and English where we can communicate enough where I could do business with them from the States online. And so I started a magazine, Monarch magazine, just because when I was 6 feet tall, I was in the 6th grade with a size 12 shoe. Yeah, wrap your mind around that. So, so I watched a lot of TV. I looked in a lot of magazines because I was trying to find another little girl in the 6th grade that was 6 feet, and I never saw it. In magazines, I never saw what I define as beautiful. I didn't see that in magazines. And so I have a great grandmother that lived across the street from me. And she always said, if there is something that bothers you about the world, you got 2 choices. You can complain like everybody else, or you can roll up your sleeves and you can change it. So everything that I do today is based off of that premise. So, I looked in magazines and I didn't see myself. I didn't see what I defined as beautiful. So I could complain about everybody else about that, about media not depicting Black people as beautiful, right? Or I could roll up my sleeves and start a magazine, and now I define to the world what I think is beautiful. I can complain that basketball equips players for sports and not life, right? You just want to win basketball games, but at the end of it, basketball has chewed these players up and spit them out. In 4 years, where do they go? What do they major in? Where do they work? Right? I could complain about that, or I could roll up my sleeves and become a college coach and try to change that. Right? And so pretty much everything that I do is based off of passion. You got to search for what you love with a passion, or passion can come out of hate. You can hate something with a passion, but passion is what's going to drive you to be the best. And passion, and like, you don't have to like look for stuff to make money. Like a lot of people want to major in medicine so they can be a doctor to make a lot of money. But if you don't love that, you're not going to do well at it. And in turn, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But when you find out what your passion is, love or hate with a passion, that's where success lies, right? And so everything that I do now, I either love it or I hate it with a passion. And I'm very passionate about changing it because I love it or I hate it. That's the key.
Okay, perfect. I like that answer. Okay, cool. I know you're, a woman of faith. And I know you have your license to be a minister. What made you get that?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I knew I was called to preach when I was in the WNBA. And we have chapels. Like every pro team has a chapel, and there's chaplains that come in. And like a lot of people don't know this, both teams come to chapel, right? So you can have the Lakers and the Cavs in a chapel, and there's a chaplain that gives you a Bible verse. They'll give you a little mini sermon about that Bible verse. Both teams hold hands, pray for each other, pray that, God will get the glory out of both teams' performances, right? And then all you really see as a fan is when the jump ball goes up and everybody's elbowing each other and fighting, talking trash, Well, backstage, they all just like worship together. And it's a pretty cool thing. So we had chapels in the WNBA, and sometimes our chaplain would get caught in traffic, like especially if it was New York Liberty or something. We're in New York, there's a car accident, the chaplain is stuck in traffic and couldn't make it. So we're all sitting in the room like, where's the chaplain? So everybody, both teams would be like, Sylvia, do the chapel. And I just started like doing chapels. And it got to the point where like every time I did a chapel, I would play the worst game ever. Like my head would just be all screwed up. It's like, so it got to the point where I didn't want to do chapels. I would just be like, no, I don't want to do that because I want to have a good game. And I couldn't balance out ministry and basketball. But I knew I was called to preach, and I knew that was way more important than basketball. So for me, it got to the point where I knew my career was coming to an end. I knew I was called to preach. I was like, Lord, just let me finish out like a couple more years, and then I promise I'll like preach the gospel. And it just came to a head where it was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. My body and my heart just started letting me know it was time. I retired. When I retired in 2004, I went straight to a seminary school at Enon Bible College, because I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to at least know the Bible, like know what I'm talking about, know where the scriptures are found. So I went to seminary school and graduated from Enon Bible College with a ministerial license. So I'm not ordained to pastor. I'm a minister where I can do funerals and christenings and weddings under the hospice of a pastor. So they have to be present with me.
Okay, I'm gonna call you to do my wedding soon.
I would love to.
Good. All
But
right.
so like my ministry is very unorthodox. It's not like sit behind a pulpit and preach to people. It has a lot to do with what I'm going through. Most preachers are like that. Most ministers are like that. Like God first deals with the person that's delivering the message. So it's things that I have been through, overcome, or maybe even still going through that I'm seeking God for. He gives me the answer or direction, and I just regurgitate that to other people. But I use basketball to reach far more people than I ever could just preaching behind a pulpit. So I use like basketball to teach life lessons, and not just life lessons, but spiritual lessons. So I start with you just trying to develop your skills, but I end with your spirit man. So I have an academy now, and you can look it up at sylviacrawley.com, and it's called Total Athlete. So I'm trying to develop the total athlete, because I believe if you can only pass, or if you can only, let's say if you can only shoot the ball, we only need you when we're down and we need points, right? But and same by the same token, let's say you and another player play the same position, but you can only shoot. You don't rebound, you don't defend nothing, you just shoot the ball. That's your thing. If you miss a couple shots, coach taking you out. Same, another person, same position, miss a couple shots, coach don't take them out. And you feel like, coach got favoritism. Every time I make a mistake, I can't play like this. I got to be able to get in a rhythm. Why they always take me out, but they leave him and she missed shots or he missed shots? But the reason is, well, they could shoot and pass and rebound and remember the plays. They get back on transition defense. They take charges. All you do is shoot. So if you are having a bad shooting night, we can't afford to leave you in. We got to take you out. And we can't afford to take this other person out because they do so many things well. So, the goal is to be a total athlete, right? Do multiple things. And that's why I'm into multiple streams of income. Like I'm a real estate investor, co-founder of a magazine. I'm a global coach. Like I do many things because for retail, like if I sell clothes, after Christmas, retail's down. People aren't buying clothes. They just bought all these toys for their kids for Christmas. They're not buying another thing in January, right? But during January, real estate is always very consistent. People always need a place to live, right? The stock market is up and down, as you know, right? So you got to have different things to balance different things. So my motto is I'm always going to eat. I'm always going to stay in the game because I do multiple things. By the same token, I teach my players, you have to be a total athlete. You have to have multiple layers to your game. If you can do one thing, then we're going to call you when we need that one thing. But if you do multiple things, you stay in the game. So the key is like stay in the game. And the game is not always basketball. The game is life. Stay in the game.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back a little bit. You said you were called to preach. Did God tell you something exactly in a dream? How did you know exactly?
No, it wasn't in a dream. It was, it's hard to explain, but so it was kind of part two. The first part was coming back from Cancun. This is just the hallway, right?
Yeah.
I believe at that time, God couldn't reveal to me what the main room was because I wasn't ready to handle it. Had I known then what I know now, I probably would have never accepted the call. You know what I mean? Like God knows he created you. So he knows what you can handle maturity wise, right? So I couldn't handle it at that part, but I knew basketball wasn't it. So I stayed open to what it was, right? It wasn't until later, like after seminary even, like I had my ministerial license, right? And then that's when I got like, I'm called to touch and inspire young hearts and minds. So my age group is youth. It's not grown-ups. It's not small kids. Like I've never coached like elementary school kids. Like people are like, you should do a clinic with lots of little kids. And like, no, that's not my area. It's teenagers, 20s. It's like seniors in high school through college graduates, that age group right there. And so, but my ministry is through basketball, you know? So God spoke to me and said, inspire young hearts and minds using basketball, but to teach them greater lessons. And that's how I do it. So, you know, I'll go to a youth blast or I'll go to a camp. I just went to a camp here and I did a practice with them, right? But I did a drill called the shadow drill, right? And so you got to get side by side with each other. And so the goal is like, okay, you're going to race to the end. But this person's on offense, this person's on defense, and you got to stay shoulder to shoulder. You can't face them, face that way, right? And so they may, this person that's on offense, they may stop, go backtrack, go fast, go slow, and this person's trying to keep up with them, and they struggle. Now, this might be the faster person. Like if it was a foot race, this person might beat that person there. But because they're doing a change of pace, it's hard for them to keep up. And then I get the kids to the side and I'll say, okay, now why was it hard for you to stay shoulder to shoulder with her? Why was it hard for you to shadow her? And she's like, well, I didn't know when she was going to stop or when she was going to go. I said, exactly. Right. And then I have them switch, offense switch to defense. So they both do it. And I said, now, why was it hard for you to keep up with her? Right. If I put y'all in the race, do you think you could beat her? She's like, yeah. I'm like, but how come you couldn't beat her when we did the drill? She's like, because she kept stopping. I didn't know when she was going to go. And so then I get them all together and I say, now listen, if you try to copy somebody else, you're always going to come in second. When you look on social media and you see what they're doing and you try to run out there and do that, you're always going to be a step behind. So be the best you that you can be, because you'll always come in first, right? And so just little lessons like that to inspire them to just genuinely be organically who they are, like their authentic selves, like just accept how God made you, whether you're tall, short, thick, thin, you know, like he made you that way for a purpose. So just run your race, be the best you that you can be, love yourself, and let everybody else copy you, but don't try to copy them because you're always going to come in second. You're always going to be a step behind. They're always going to be ahead of you. So, you know, run your race. And so throughout the practice, I'll do demonstrations like that a lot, just teaching them about loving themselves, embracing their fearfully and wonderfully made identity, that kind of thing. So I love it. I absolutely love empowering young hearts and minds. I think the generations that we have right now, they're changing the world. They're changing the world, and they don't really need us to teach them how to do stuff because they have the internet for that. You got YouTube to teach you everything, right? They just need a little bit of guidance, right? And that's all. They need support, love, somebody to back them up, you know, but that's it. And you just turn them loose and let them go and let them change the world. And it's happening. Like we're literally sitting back watching it happen on the news. Right. And so I have a niece that just went to Howard. And when I tell you, she's a world changer, like her generation is going to change the world.
Wow. That's amazing. Cool. And yeah, my next question is, you know, I was watching.
Wait, before you go to the next question, let me say
Yeah.
this about your last question.
Okay.
Because it's hard for me to explain God's voice because he speaks to everybody differently, right?
Yeah. Okay.
What I will tell you is whenever God speaks, he always confirms it. So if you feel like God told you something, you don't have to guess and wonder if it was God until you learn God's voice, right? Because the Bible says, my sheep know my voice. So you will learn to know when it's him. But in the beginning, he will confirm it until you know it was him. Like he could tell you something, you'd be like, is that guy trying to tell me something? And you ride down the street and you'll see a billboard that say exactly what you got. And you'll be like, oh, or a commercial will come on TV or a song will come on. Like God can use anything, anybody right, to confirm his word. And so you'll get a confirmation until you got it. Like for me, sometimes all I need is one confirmation. I'm like, okay, Lord, I got it. I hear you. Yep, I got it. But when I was younger, it may have taken like 3 confirmations. Like my mom would say it again. I'd be like, what? And then I'd go to church and the preacher would say it. I'd be like, and then I'd have to have one more confirmation before I'd be like, all right, I got it. Right. So whenever God speaks, he'll always confirm it. Somebody, somehow, some way will confirm it so that you know this is not just my imagination. This is not just me wanting it so bad that I drum this up. This is not happenstance. Like this is God speaking to me.
Okay. I got it. Perfect. Yeah, I was watching an interview that you had with Mr. Kellogg and Mark, CEO of Athletes in Action. And so what's your position with Athletes in Action? Would it be your academy, or you do other stuff with them as well?
Yeah, so it's tricky, but I kind of work part-time with Athletes in Action. So they have helped with my academy. So
Okay.
through Athletes in Action, I've become a global coach. So we did a program with India. I trained men and women in India. And that's kind of what Clark was interviewing me about. So when it's like 5 o'clock in the evening for them, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning for me. So I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, train them. COVID hit, right? So they weren't able to go outside. They were on complete lockdown. So they didn't even have access to courts, to it like a gym. So they were in their driveway just doing ball handling drills with me for 4 weeks. I'm like, listen, how many ball handling drills could you possibly do for 4 weeks straight? They worked on passing. They were throwing balls off the wall, like, because it was just them. They didn't have a partner. They were in different areas in India. They weren't all in the same place, right? Different cities. So that was tough. So we brought in a strength and conditioning coach. So they did strength and conditioning. We brought in a sports psychologist. So they worked on like just the mental part of it. We did team building with them. So we had, and I did the basketball part. So we had a staff of people around these kids. And it was incredible. Like it was, some of them didn't even speak English, but they confided in us about some real issues that I couldn't talk about in the interview with Clark Kellogg, nor can I talk about now for the safety of those players. But it started out as just training some kids and ended up being like real life ministry. To the point where one of them, we're bringing her to the States as soon as the kind of Delta variant lets up. They put a block on travel from India to the United States, so we couldn't get her here. But as soon as that lets up, we found a host family for her. Athletes in Action has their own campus in Xenia, Ohio. So we've got a dorm room, cafeteria. Their school is called Legacy School. It's grades K through 12. She'll be put on a basketball team there. So just total lifestyle change for her. And any of the other players that want to come over here, Athletes in Action, they have the infrastructure to host those kind of players like that. So that's pretty cool and pretty life-changing to be able to change a person's life like that, the trajectory of their life like that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, what's your thoughts on the NIL bill being passed, the name, image, likeness for, high school and college kids?
I think it's good. I think because I was one of the people in college, they sold.
That would have made a lot of money.
Yeah, they sold my jersey in the student stores, and I never got a dime for that. Like at the time, I just thought it was cool that my family could come to town and all buy a jersey and have them on at my games. And so that was cool, but to be able to get compensated for that would have been a whole nother level. So I think the kids, the players, I shouldn't call them kids, the players, they deserve to get paid for their likeness and images and to be able to do endorsements for companies and be influencers, because that's what they are, right? I do think with that, it should be coupled with financial literacy, because They already get cost of attendance checks now. So whatever the cost of attendance for each school, they get a check for that. So like my players from North Carolina, they were getting paid. Like first of the month, I'd be like, hey, let me borrow $20. So they get paid for that. And now they can get paid for their likeness. So now you've got, when I went to college, I was 17. You got 17, 18-year-olds with a whole lot of money and a whole lot of influence. If not managed correctly, I could see how that could be dangerous, right? Because they're target for a lot of stuff because of their status on campus. So I think financial literacy should be like a requirement along with this new bill, just to teach them how to manage money, put some aside. If you take a little bit of your cost of attendance check, and let's say you do an endorsement for a company, like I was seeing Master P's son did an endorsement for like $2 million. Okay, let's put 1/4 of that away. Let's take a little bit of your cost of attendance checks each month. Let's put that away and invest it, right? And put it in an account. By the time you graduate, you could buy your house, buy your car, start your company. Like you're already set, because you don't really need all that money, because athletes have been making it, surviving without it on a full ride for years, right? So it's not a necessity, it's a luxury. So let's put just a little bit. Now here's some, like, enjoy it, because you deserve it. Like the school is making how much money off of your likeness because you're here, because you're winning games. So you deserve some of that money, but let's put some of it away. Let's give some to your family. If your family's struggling, let's help your family out, but let's figure out a healthy way to manage that money, because that's something that's not taught. They don't teach you how to manage your money, right? They don't teach you how to invest in cryptocurrency and which stocks and what's a bond, what's a mutual fund, all of that kind of stuff. Like life insurance and borrowing. Like I borrow against myself. I have a annuity fund, right? And I borrow against myself, so I don't pay interest. And it just sits. It's like a line of credit. If I want to start a business, if I want to invest in some real estate, I see a project that I want to get involved in, I got a lump sum of money and I have to pay myself back every month without interest though. So I save myself so much money, but they didn't teach me that in college. I had to learn that like the hard way. So financial literacy, if I feel like if today's generation learn financial literacy, it's a wrap, because they got so much more knowledge than the other generations because of the internet, right? Like they just are so much more mature, so much more knowledgeable. But if they get the financial literacy part, it's a wrap, I think. That's the missing piece. I feel like that's what needs to happen, in addition to what's going on in the world of college and politics and all of that kind of stuff.
All right, cool. Yeah, just winding down. What's your prediction with the WNBA as it heads to the playoffs? If you've been paying attention.
The Aces. I'm a fan, man. Like I'm on board. I'm invested. I'm locked in. I just think they're doing something really right there, right? They're playing incredible basketball, but Mark Davis, he just gets it. Like the fact that he flew all the alumni out this year, and the players, like, we didn't really get to interact with them a lot because of COVID, right? They're not in the bubble anymore, but they kind of got them bubbled off, right? But they knew we were there. They created posters with our pictures on them, and they were in the locker rooms for the players to have and stuff. So they know who we are. They knew we were there. And I said to Mark Davis myself, you bringing us here not only means the world, especially to me, because I got married. So that's an unforgettable experience for me, right? But it speaks volumes to the players, because what it says to the players is that long after you can win games for us, you are still part of this family for life, right? And your contributions are appreciated. So when you get an employee that feels valued, like that feels appreciated for what they do, they're going to work harder. They're invested. Like it's like the energy bus. If the bus breaks down, they're gonna get out and push because they want to keep this going. So it's a different kind of energy going on in with the aces. Like he's doing something very right there. And I think it's setting a precedent for the other teams, but I'm seeing it translate on the court. I've been watching the game since they flew me to Vegas. Like I'm watching the score. If I don't get to see the game, I'm looking at the scores. I'm like, yes, like and they have their laws. Like they may lose the game here or there, but for the most part, they have the key ingredients. Like I think you've got to have a great point guard that's not selfish, that's not trying to like just get theirs all the time, right? I think they have that. Like their point guard just distributes the ball on time, like when you're open, not after you get the ball and then the defense is there. Now you lost your chance. Like just diamond people on time. You got incredible centers, not just one. If one gets injured, you got another one. You got some guard play. Like they have the key ingredients, and their chemistry is great. You could just tell they genuinely like to play with each other. And so when you have that, you got some leadership, you got a good center and a good point guard. I just think I'm a fan of the Aces, man. I'm pulling for them.
All right, cool. You want to give all your info to the people so they can follow you?
Yeah, I've been branded all across the board for my clothing line. It's Crawley's Creation. That's on IG, Facebook. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Etsy. I'm on everything. I'm on Snapchat. And then for the coaching side, it's Coach Crawley for everything. Coach Crawley. And then my website for coaching is sylviacrawley.com. So that's how you can reach me. Pretty simple.
All right. Thank you for your time today. And we're here with Coach Crawley. And, see you guys next time. All right. Peace.